The film begins by showing an innocent man walking with his employer. We can see his eyes are very innocent and there seems to be nothing there. However, when the leashes were opened by the master, the man immediately beat the people there without mercy. This man's name is Denny. Denny is a bouncer from a loan shark. When the necklace is put back on, Denny returns to being an innocent man with an innocent look and tends to look like someone who has mental retardation. When he returned to base camp, Denny was treated like a dog. Denny was told to go into his cage and eat dog food. After eating, Denny practiced by hitting his very worn bag. Until when Denny hit him too hard, the bag broke. The only valuable things Denny had were a doll and a children's picture book which he always looked at before going to sleep. In addition, it appears that Denny also has a strong interest in a piano. It will relate to his past which will be revealed later. Long story short, night fell. When the boss and his servant were having sex, Denny watched him from below to make the woman scared. Denny's days passed like that every day until some people who already knew about Denny's reputation chose to step back and not fight back at all. At a jewelry auction, the owner of the place was seen there. He already knows about how the boss and Denny work, namely if the necklace is not removed then Denny will not react. At that time the boss also said that to create a wild animal, educate someone from childhood and treat that person like an animal. That's what makes Denny what he is today. Suddenly the boss was tied up until the owner arrested everyone. Denny could only watch his boss and his subordinates shout without reacting. This makes sense because Denny was educated not to have the emotions and affection that made him used to fighting when his necklace was opened while the owner of the auction place went to another room to meet the guests. When the boss and his men finished being tortured, he finally got a chance to open the necklace. Instantly everyone was beaten into the guest room. The interesting thing is that one of the guests who is the owner of an illegal wrestling place also pays attention to Denny and sees potential in him. When he returned to base camp, the boss scolded Denny because he didn't help at all because even a dog would help his master when he was in danger. Not wanting to waste time, the boss went to collect to the next place where the place was an antique shop. Not wanting to make the same mistake as before, the boss asked Denny to wait outside and the boss explained that when the light was on, Denny had to go inside because it was a sign of danger. When the boss continued to explain, Denny's attention was turned to an old piano that was there. Feeling that Denny had understood, the boss immediately went in there to collect. Every second passed and Denny stole glances at the piano until he slowly shifted and tried to press the piano. Suddenly Denny was surprised by a man who appeared where it was just an old piano repairman. His name is Sam. He is a blind man who is good at playing the piano. Because he couldn't see Sam, he continued to talk as if Denny was an ordinary person as usual. Until the same time asking for help, Denny finally said yes. Sam, who has never known what yellow looks like all his life, asks Denny to hit a few notes while he fixes his radio malfunction. After finishing repairing the piano, Sam played the piano very beautifully and it made Denny feel alive again just like he was in the past. Suddenly heard the sound of tit tit tit. When he heard the dick letter, Denny immediately realized and quickly ran inside. But he was too late because the boss and the men were already battered by his client. Even though the boss is very angry with Denny, the boss can't do much because Denny is an asset to him. Not long after, the man who owns the club named ATU came to offer him cooperation with the boss. At first the boss refused because he thought this was a child's game. But when he heard the pay was quite high, the boss agreed. Until then one explains that there is only one rule, and that is to fight to the death, and if he doesn't die then he won't get paid. Sutley and this big and scary guy are the defending champions in his fight club. He had killed dozens of fighters and managed to break thousands of human bones. He is also a graduate of the most sadistic prison in Mexico. His name is Erico. Not wanting to waste too much time, and the boss immediately took off his necklace and told Denny to fight. What was surprising was that the defending champion, who had already killed dozens of fighters, had to die by 3 ordinary blows from Denny. The game was finished with a lot of money he got. The boss looked very happy and offered Denny something he wanted. It turned out that what Denny wanted was a piano. Suddenly this made the boss laugh. But Denny continued to talk piano, piano, piano. Suddenly a truck hit their car until it was dragged tens of meters from the highway. After that, 3 heavily armed men appeared who immediately opened fire on the boss and Denny's car. It turned out that it was the act of the owner of the auction place, who still had a grudge against the boss. Thought they were dead, they left, and it turned out that Denny was still alive and only hit by a bullet in his arm. Denny thought the boss was dead. Denny also left from there and headed to the place where the unique items had been. As a result of the bullet, Denny lost a lot of blood and then fainted. When he realized, Denny was already on the bed, which turned out to be Uncle Sam's house, and with changed clothes. When Sam entered with food, Denny immediately hid under the mattress. Soon came Sam's stepdaughter named Victoria, and when Sam saw her, she immediately closed the door. Knowing Denny likes music, Victoria goes into the room and gives him a small piano for Denny. Until they were about to have dinner, Denny finally came out and decided to adapt to his new home. The next morning, when Sam was about to remove the necklace around Denny's neck, he immediately reacted not to open it. Next, Denny was invited to join Sam's activities, where they took Victoria to school, then went to the supermarket to shop for groceries. Arriving at home, Denny also saw some photos on the refrigerator where they were photos of Sam and Victoria, which turned out to be Victoria's friend. Where when Victoria's parents died, Sam was given the mandate to take care of her, and when Denny asked where his parents were, Denny said that he didn't remember where they lived. The days after that became very warm. Denny is like being born again and has a new family who are very kind to him. It was something that had never been felt before. One day when they were shopping, suddenly there were some people fighting there. Sam, who was worried about Denny's condition, kept shouting his name, and Denny didn't really care about that. Sam also asked Denny why he didn't panic and didn't react when there were people fighting around him. Denny replied that they didn't fight with him, so he felt that there was no need to care about him. Hearing that, Sam also understood, because maybe it was a part of his past and personal, so he didn't think much about it. One night when their closeness was getting closer, Victoria decided to open the necklace around Denny's neck. At first Denny was scared and remembered his past. However, when he was released, he finally became someone new and not Denny the dog anymore. The next day Denny was invited by Sam to go to work with Sam. The two of them became very good partners, and Denny got his share of the work. Denny asks what is the money for? Sam also says it's up to you, Denny, it's your money. You can buy tissue, condoms and various other digestive tools. Denny went alone to a shop and bought some cute hats to give to Victoria and Sam. When he was about to go home, he suddenly met one of the boss's subordinates. He also said that the boss was still alive and was looking for Denny everywhere. Denny also said that he would not return because he already has a new family. But the boss's men threatened to come to his new family if Denny doesn't come back. When Denny arrived at the headquarters, the boss looked very happy with Denny's return. Denny at that time had one question, namely where was his mother? The boss ignored Denny's question. In the end, Denny returned to being a beast, where the boss invited Denny to fight back at the fight club at that time. As the fight is about to start, Denny keeps saying that he doesn't want to hurt anyone else anymore. The boss pushed Denny into the arena until he was forced to fight with the fighters there. Denny can only dodge and defend from his opponent because he really doesn't want to hurt other people anymore. But because the match was less exciting, the boss threw a weapon so Denny could fight back. But Denny ignored it and persisted. Not wanting the game to continue to be monotonous, the club owner decided to lose 3 of his fighters, so that now Denny had to fight 4 fighters alone, from there by getting beaten so badly that he was thrown and almost unconscious. Realizing this situation, Denny finally decided to fight, and finally the match became more exciting. They also threw various weapons, but that did not make Denny lose, and continued to fight empty-handed until they were all defeated by being injured. Remembering the rule that if no one dies, then the boss will not get a penny. Finally, the boss was desperate to kill himself with his gun. As a result of the incident, Denny was severely beaten and thrown back into his cage. Elsewhere, Victoria questions where Denny is now. He thought that Denny happy with them. Sam replies that sometimes being happy is not enough, and maybe Denny wants to find out who he really is. Meanwhile, Denny is seen looking at his book again, where he finds a photo of his mother there. When the boss is having sexual relations with a woman, suddenly Denny appears there and immediately forces the boss to tell the truth. Scared, the boss shows pictures of his mother and says that her mother is a prostitute and has been killed by her friend in the past, and the boss decides to take care of Denny since then. When going to work as usual, on the way the boss said that a family must be maintained no matter what happens. Hearing this, Denny realized that he already had his own family, namely Sam and Victoria. The family must be defended. Whatever happened, Denny immediately rebelled until the car swayed and had an accident. Denny quickly went back to Sam's house, where they were waiting for him there. By using the photo that Denny brought, Victoria also looks for clues about Denny's mother, who turns out to be a piano player, and there are several photos of students there with very large windows, so Sam concludes that maybe Denny's mother is a piano teacher at an academy. So they went there and searched the archives for an Asian woman who had taught there. After all is revealed, Denny finally can live in peace and live a new life together, and Victoria, and the story is not finished yet. When Victoria played notes from her mother's paper, Denny immediately remembered the past, that it was the boss who had killed and raped her mother. At that time Denny was told to hide in the closet and witness his mother's death firsthand. What happened then? The boss took care of him and made Denny his pet dog. After remembering it all, he immediately asked them to pack up to leave because it was certain that they were no longer safe there. But they were too late because the boss brought several troops and a martial arts expert was waiting for him in the car. Realizing this, Denny told Sam and Victoria to hide in the closet. Denny himself immediately approached them and the fight was inevitable. Although some of his opponents used weapons, Denny remained calm and managed to knock down one of the boss troops right beside the boss car. When he realized that Denny was not easy to catch, the boss sent the martial arts expert to catch him straight away. Meanwhile, Denny was seen being chased on top of the building until when there was no other way, Denny decided to enter the building. Unexpectedly, a martial arts expert suddenly appeared who slashed him, but luckily his sword only cut some of Denny's hair. Then a fierce battle ensued until Denny was finally thrown out. They accidentally enter the apartment of a woman who is taking a junub bath. Not giving up easily, the martial arts expert immediately attacked him and a fight ensued in a narrow place that made the walls damaged by the blows from the two of them. It turned out that without his sword, the martial artist was not as good as he imagined until he had to fall right on top of the boss's car. Seeing this, the boss immediately intervened and it was seen that his subordinates managed to lead Denny to a room. At this time the boss seduces and persuades Denny to return. When the boss is about to put his collar back on, Denny holds him and says, "Sorry dog, I already have a new family." The boss was immediately paralyzed. Till when Denny is about to kill him, Sam immediately forbids him because if Denny kills him then he will be in prison and will be just like them. But when the boss continues to provoke Denny's anger, Sam immediately hits him with a flower pot to silence him. When all finished, Denny finally lived happily with Sam and Victoria. From this film, we can learn that to create a monster, educate him as early as possible. Vice versa, if you want to become a person or create someone with a good personality, then educate him as best you can with a good environment and good education. I am Abdi and Om Shujano. Thank you for watching this film summary and I say goodbye to my resignation. Thank you.